See you later.
Without even having an experience.
Yeah.
How old you were at that time?
I was 42. I mean, I've done art before. I've done theater. I've acted. I've had a live TV show in Egypt. But I never imagined stand-up comedy would be the thing. People now know that they can't mess with Arab women. They know that when we speak, they will sit back and listen whether they like it or not.
What's the hardest truth you've had to face about yourself?
Well, because comedy is therapy, it really showed me something huge. It was like a slap in the face when I realized it. We're strong, independent women, but being strong and independent doesn't mean being isolated.
Welcome to ZenTales, the podcast where we explore amazing stories of purpose, growth, and grace. I'm your host, Zackarya, and my today's guest, the incredible and amazing Noha Bashir. Noha, hello. Thank you so much again joining me today. Really, I remember when we met first time. We were in a group of ladies. I didn't know anything about you. I just heard something like stage or something. I don't know. I was like, who is this? And then I asked you, what are you doing? And you said, I'm a comedian.
Yep.
I'm sure I didn't show that, but I was like, who is this person? So then my question for you is still, who are you, Noha Bashir?
Oh wow, the hardest question
in
history.
Why?
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. I'm excited to get to know each other with all these cameras watching us.
Oh yeah.
Who am I? I'm just trying to figure it out and enjoying the process.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 44. I'm
44.
actually 45 in a few months.
In a few months? When is your birthday?
July.
July?
Yeah.
Which July?
25th.
Oh, wow.
Is that your birthday too?
No.
That'd be weird.
No, I'm 2nd July.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
But I mean, we're very close.
Yeah.
And I'm 46, so...
okay, we just missed it by the...
a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. But what I've learned about you when I researched a little bit, so I've got the information that you've been living in US, in Europe. You've been working in some corporate companies, and you've been working at Meta with executives. Is that right?
Yeah, was.
What was that life about?
It was very different to this life.
Okay.
I think I've had multiple lives in the last 40-something years.
Okay.
I mean, I started as a teacher. Yeah, my mother is a teacher. Doesn't want to retire. She still is a teacher. Should have retired 10 years ago. And she was my hero and I wanted to be just like her. So I started as a teacher. And I worked in development, building schools and villages. I worked in PR, marketing. I had a live TV show in Egypt back in the 20s. Not in the 20s, in my 20s. Not in the 20s, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a lot. I worked in advertising. I worked in tech for the last, I want to say, 12 years of my corporate career before I left it all to chase the joy.
So you had 20 years of your corporate career.
Yeah.
And you just left.
Yep.
What was the moment when you were like, I'm done, halas?
It's my halas moment.
What was the moment when you decided to leave the stable corporate life and just become a comedian?
I wish there was one moment. There is a moment, right? But I feel like that moment has been many, many, many years and moments in the making.
Okay.
In search of purpose, in search of joy, in search of why are we here? But it all came together in one specific moment. I remember I was in New York and I was walking down West Village, where all the comedy clubs are and the NYU students perform in the streets. And I looked at them. I was so important, rushing to one meeting from another, and with my little laptop, so angry, New York, move tourists out of the way. And I looked at these kids, and I looked at them, and as they were acting scenes in the street, they didn't care who was watching. They were just doing it. And I said to myself, maybe in the next life, I'll do this. And that's when I stood still and said, what? What next life? First of all, there's this life. What am I doing with it? And that's when it really started all coming together. I left America. I left the corporate world. I traveled for a few months, just reconnecting with friends and family from all over the world. And then I came back to Dubai and I started to do some interviews, right? I thought maybe my problem was being in America.
Okay.
Versus being in corporate. And I kept doing these interviews, and there was a voice in the back of my head every time I answer a question in an interview seriously, and it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you pretending to be someone else? Don't do that. Don't do that. Go play. Go play. So I decided to listen to the voice and go play. And I took a comedy class. And from the second time I fell in love, and I said, you know what? Let me give it 6 months. Let me just...
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. When did you start?
2 years, almost 2 years ago, actually. In March, it'll be my 2-year anniversary.
So it's like you just left the corporate world.
Yeah. I was like, see you later.
Without even having an experience.
Yeah.
How old you were at that time?
I was 42.
42.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. You're the closest circle. How they were reacting for all of this.
Good question. Some of them, you know who you are, called it the midlife crisis.
Okay.
To which I answered, midlife, 42? Do you expect me to live to 84? It sounds exhausting. But the others, the majority said, finally, you're doing something that you're made for. And I didn't realize. I mean, I've done art before. I've done theater. I've acted. I've had a live TV show in Egypt. But I never imagined stand-up comedy would be the thing. I would never imagine. But and a lot of people were skeptical. A lot of people were like, okay, let her go do her experience. Let her have her midlife crisis. Let her have fun. She worked hard. But then I remember when I did my first show and my family and friends came to watch, right after it, they said, don't give up on this. Keep going. Yeah.
Oh, I think that was the a big thing for you to move on.
Yeah.
Wow, that's nice. Did you ever regret about your decision?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I wish I could say. I never looked back, but we look back a lot. I used to have a monthly artist existential crisis. Again, that's what my friends branded it as.
Monthly?
Artist existential crisis.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
It means that you wake up one day and at the beginning it was more frequent. Now it's less frequent, which is progress. I'd wake up and I say, what am I doing? This is not an adult way to live life. What am I doing? It's not like I'm jumping, like you said, into a career that I have some experience with, or I've been doing acting on the side or comedy on the side for years. No, I left it all to start from scratch in an entertainment field that is stand-up comedy, which is quite rare and not quite big here yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's what goes on in my head in the artist existential crisis. And then I just sit down, remind myself that this is like fear disappears the moment you step into it.
What helps you to go through those crises, challenges? What helps you to keep going?
Yeah. I make sure that I go jump on stage immediately to get reminded by why I'm doing this, which is the rush you get from getting on stage, the laughs you get, someone coming to you after your show saying, you know what, I've had a really bad week. This made a difference. So these things kind of help you get through it. And then I take bigger risks, challenge myself more, do things that seem impossible. And when you achieve something that seems impossible, you seem invincible. You feel invincible. So that's how kind of I get through it. And then I call my trusted advisors, my friends, who tell me, no, you got this. You know, you're doing great. Keep going. Let's go have coffee. Let's watch a sunset together. You know, and then I watch maybe some videos of stuff that I've done. You just have to remind yourself why you're doing it and the growth that you've come across quite fast. And that makes it worthwhile. Yeah.
There is a common belief like the corporate world can crush the creativity. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, 100%. Corporate world, late stage capitalism, societal influences and pressures. And I think there are a lot of people I know who are in the corporate world who have managed to maintain their creative spirit and maybe even monetize it. But I think it's actually, the issue is that we have our gut feeling, the voice inside our head that tells us this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're passionate about. The noise of the corporate world muffles it until it silences it completely. So if you manage to stay true and listen to your gut instinct that tells you this is your purpose and this is what you're supposed to do and this is what makes you happy and this is the most impact you can make in the world while you're at corporate, then you can succeed. I failed to do that. So that's why I gave up corporate and decided to dive headfirst into the arts.
Okay, but you know, it's easy to say. It sounds easy for me, like what you are saying.
Yeah.
That you have to listen. We have this gut feeling. We have this voice in our heads.
Yeah.
But the people I know, the people I met, I don't want to judge anyone.
I'll judge. I'll do that for you.
But most of them, I'm not sure if they have that voice. Do you think that everyone has that voice?
Oh, I like to hope so. I'm an optimist and I'd like to hope that everyone has that voice, but not everyone has the clarity of mind and the discipline and the courage to listen to that voice, because it's very scary. Because if you have to pay the bills and, you know, put your kids through school and pay your debt, you're not going to sit down and listen to a voice that you know is going to tell you, go be a diver in Bali. Right? That's the scariest thing. You can't and if you listen to it, it'll haunt you forever until you do it. So I think it's just some people can't do it because they have too much responsibility in life, or they have that fear that our life has to look a certain way for it to be a happy, successful life. So reframing what a happy, successful life is takes a lot of courage. And to do that, you have to listen to the voice. So it's like a loop. What comes first?
How do you listen? How do you listen to your voice? And how do you do you still have that voice inside?
Oh yeah, it's very loud.
Okay.
I can barely hear you from the voice right now. It's very, very loud. It's first of all, to be able to find the voice again, that's where it's tricky. It takes a lot of therapy.
Okay.
Knowing yourself. Well, actually, it takes a lot of knowing yourself. And for you to know yourself, you have to heal yourself. And figure out what things you're doing in life and choices you're making are based on who you are versus your trauma responses or what society tells you have to do, right? So when you work on yourself, which takes a lot of therapy and healing, you start figuring out why you do things. And when you figure out why you do things, you start figuring out who you are. And then you meet yourself. And a lot of times you're going to meet yourself and you're like, I don't like this person. So then to have the courage to say, I'm going to rebuild that person into someone I like. So it's a whole process that really starts with sitting down, looking in the proverbial mirror, and being comfortable with seeing who you are and being okay with saying, if I don't like it, I can create something new.
I can tell you that, first of all, thank you so much sharing that you are having or you had a therapy. Because I don't know much people who can tell that about themselves, like openly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm having therapy sessions
because
I'm in therapy for 4 years.
Yeah.
So I know what I mean. And but I stopped to do that.
Stop therapy?
No.
Stop talking about it.
I stopped to talking about it because previously when I used to I listen like someone is blaming others, like complaining about the life, and I'm like, why don't you just get some therapy sessions? And I think what was the look from there. Like, am I psycho? Am I what's wrong with me? I'm fine. I'm good. I don't need a therapist. So and then I stopped to do that because I just realized that it's suddenly it's very personal decision. I cannot be involved in there. But I believe, and I can tell that I started therapy after my divorce. What was your case, if I may ask?
Oh, I'd always tell you. You can ask whatever you want.
I have 20 questions here.
Let's go. I'm ready. Well, when did I start therapy? I'm trying to think. I mean, I should have started therapy after my after I broke my third engagement back in 2007, but I didn't. Third, yeah.
Third.
Yeah. But I didn't. I think I started therapy, I want to say, maybe 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was just so focused on work. All I wanted to, I was just working 24/7. I felt no joy was an understatement. I felt nothing. I had money. I had access to the world. I was traveling on these fancy business trips, and I didn't grow up with all of these things. But I'm working. I'm succeeding. I'm getting promoted. I have everything. I ticked all the boxes. Why am I not happy? Why am I not feeling anything? No sadness, no happiness, nothing. So my work had offered us free therapy. Not free, but like with an insurance. So I was like, yep, let's try it out. But first, before therapy, actually, I tried healing. I tried different types of healing. Okay. And it felt good. But I think it was mainly because you sat in that silence with someone who's trying to cure you or help you, and there was conversations, so there was like tiny pieces of progress, and then I was lucky to stumble into an opportunity to find a therapist. It took me maybe 3 different therapists until I found someone that we connected with, because I see that a lot with my friends who've never done therapy. They'll try one and they're like, therapy isn't for me. It's like, are you punishing that therapist or yourself? Right? You have to test it out. You can't expect to find someone who can help you with here immediately. And someone told me this once, and I can't remember who. They said, you go to the doctor when you feel sick, but you also go to the doctor every year to do a full checkup, just in case you're sick. Exactly. And that's your body, visible. Imagine your brain and your heart. You're absorbing things left and right. You have to get that checked. Otherwise, it's going to be a garbage fire dump in there, right? So I started therapy, and I absolutely loved it, because at the beginning it's healing previous trauma, but then when you start doing it a lot, and I'm sure you start getting tools on how to manage your feelings and how to regulate your emotions. And every time, you go through something and you manage to regulate it without having to run to the therapist, you feel like a little bit more invincible. Right? A little bit more powerful. A little bit more evolved. So that's kind of
it's kind of a sacred place. You can be just yourself. Like truly yourself.
Truly, yes. I have a lot of jokes about my therapist.
Oh, really?
She hates that.
Interesting. So I have a question. You've lived in the US and in Europe for so many years. What is that? I'm asking that because I'm the one who just recently moved to this to the UAE and just started to discover Arab world. So what's the biggest misconception there about the Arab world?
Let's see. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, the misconceptions were more. And they were everything from, oh, you live in a tent and you ride camels to work, literally everything from that end of the spectrum to, but women don't have a freedom of speech there. To that end of the spectrum. Oh, you're not married. Why does that mean? Oh, it's not safe. And my response to my New York friends who tell me, oh, is the UAE and the Arab world not safe for women? I tell them, get on the subway once in New York after 8 p.m. and then talk to me about, is it safe or not safe?
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And how about the comedy culture? What is the difference in the Eastern world and in the Arab world? You've mentioned that it's very new thing here. Yeah. How do you feel that?
So there's different layers. So one layer is Arabic comedy, stand-up comedy versus English stand-up comedy.
Okay.
So I'm going to compare apples to apples first. The English stand-up comedy scene here versus, let's say, the English stand-up comedy scene in the UK. Because I was like all over the UK, in Edinburgh and London and Liverpool in the summer. So I have like a closer, clearer comparison. It's much more, not advanced, but there's a lot more supply and demand there.
Okay.
In the UK, a lot more people, comedy. There's been comedians for many, many decades. Here in the UAE, I think maybe the first English-speaking comedy show was like maybe 30 years ago. And then only a few years ago, more comedians started to come on board, and more commonly, you'll find comedy shows almost every day now. So I think the biggest difference is the audience. Here, it's truly diverse. Because you have all 200 nationalities in English, right? You have 200 nationalities. You can have 100 nationalities in one audience. So it's harder because you need to appeal to everyone, but still be authentic enough for people to trust you and believe you. In the UK, everyone expects it to be very specific. It's British humor, or if it's this neighborhood, it's like British, but with like, Jamaican Oregon humor. Like it's very specific there. I had to change a lot in my comedy to be relatable there. But I truly only succeeded there when I was authentic. I was just telling them stories about my life. I didn't have to be relatable to them. But the biggest difference between comedy in the advanced world and here is that in the UK, I was usually the only woman in a show. Here, it's at least 50%.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
How is it to be an Arab woman in this entertainment industry?
It's amazing. It's powerful.
Powerful?
It's very powerful.
What do you mean?
Because people now know that they can't mess with Arab women. They know that when we speak, they will sit back and listen whether they like it or not. And the thing is, it's really because when Arab women speak, they speak basically on behalf of generations of women who couldn't. So that's like the underlying tone. But also we've seen a lot and we've earned our space, and people now know to not mess with us.
That's interesting. That sounded really harsh.
It was a threat. You know who I'm talking. You know who you are.
Are there any stereotypes about the Arab women? What are the stereotypes? Like you are, I guess you're making love of it.
But you tell me, you recently came to the UAE. What stereotypes did people tell you before you moved here?
A good question. Okay. I can tell you honestly, I'm not proud of it, but this is what we've got from the news, I guess, from the internet, maybe, that and I was surprised to meet so many different Arab women. I would say different, because I thought all the Arab women are more or less the same, like feminine, having kids, staying at home, being a housewife, you know. But then I just realized that there are so many different types of women. And then I realized that there is Lebanese women, Egyptian women, and then Moroccan women. And so many, like just like a few years ago, I just met, I have one good friend in Oman. She's Omani, and she's also different. Like everyone is different. So, but I think the biggest stereotype, the misconception that I had before, that all the Arab women, like just sitting at home, having kids, being a housewife, and that's it.
Yep. Thank you for answering the question that you asked me.
So it's all the same for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm none of those things. Absolutely none of those things. And yeah, you're right. Very different. We're very different. Even within the Egyptian women, they're very different. Within the Omani women, they're all very different. Everyone has a strong sense of identity. And that's one thing I love about Arab women. It's just, I think, just whether you're a stand-up comedian or you're a writer or you're a podcaster or you're a mother, even whatever you choose at this stage, most of them they made that choice themselves and they will back it up, right? So I think it's beautiful because every time an Arab woman in specific stands up for her choice, it's like, you know, it's like a rebellion. It's an act of defiance because I am choosing to do what I want, whether it's what generally society told me to do, it's still a choice, or whether it's the opposite of what society told me to do. So actually our voices, our contributions to society, our impact is generally an act of defiance.
Okay, I can tell you something.
Yeah.
I remember it was also like a few years ago when I just moved here. I met I met different people. So, and I've heard that, how to say? Okay, it's like,
Don't be shy. It's just us here.
I don't want to cross the line. That's the point. Okay. I've heard that in Arab families, the girl, she has to stay at home in the family until she marries. Okay. And if she goes out, she's supposed to be with someone from the family. She's not allowed to go out just by herself. And then if she's divorced, she has to come back to the family.
That sounds terrifying.
Yes.
It sounds terrifying. I mean, I can speak on behalf of me and my community and my friends. There are some conservative people, and I think it's the same anywhere in the world, right? There's people who are very conservative, whether it's for social reasons or religious reasons. But in my society, my community, my generation, maybe when I was younger, my family was a little bit more kind of protective over me. I had a curfew. They need to know where I'm going, who I'm going with, which is fine. But right now, I am not living in my family home, and I didn't get married, right? And I left the country that my family home is in, and most of my friends are like that. My divorced friends, they're the happiest of them all. I have to definitely debunk the fact that if you get divorced, you have to go back to your family home. But again, I can't speak on behalf of every Arab country, but the people that I know, we're pretty chill.
Oh, what is the one thing of the stereotypes you love making fun of?
I like to make fun of myself, my life mostly, because it's pretty hilarious, I think. growing up conservative, and I always got in trouble because I had to voice my opinion.
Okay.
So that to me is one of the stereotypes that, the stereotypes that was true for me growing up is we're told that a good girl has to be quiet, has to be pleasant, has to be manageable, has to blend in. And I never wanted to do that. So that's a big part of what I joke about is myself and the contradiction between how I grew up back then and how open I am and society is now. Back to your questions. A lot of these stereotypes are maybe outdated. They were 20 years ago. But we've been fighting the long game and screaming and doing comedy and, you know, being presidents and all that jazz. I don't know. Do we have any female presidents? I don't know. But in this part of the world, do we?
I know that in Egypt you have female minister of something.
Oh, there's many female ministers. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I think we've come a long way from before,
Okay.
maybe 20 years ago, and now. And I forgot the question. Oh yeah, what I make fun of? My memory. I make fun of how bad my memory is, but I make fun of the stereotype that you have to get married to have fulfillment, and I'm pretty fulfilled and happy, and I'm not married. So. Yeah.
I didn't have much time to watch stand-up show, but I remember a first comedian that I discovered. I watched the movie, I don't remember, Mrs. Marvelous.
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Yep.
Yeah. And then I started to watch because my son suggested me to watch him. It's like, join me, he's great, the Gabriel Iglesias. So, and I remember that really touched me, that they were sharing that moments when, like in comedy, nothing is sacred. And they often joke about family, about some personal stuff. How is that in your case? Did you ever scared to cross the line, or I don't know, to accidentally hurt someone close to you from your family or your circle?
Yeah. I failed a lot. I stumbled a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes. But I think a big part of being an artist and stand-up comedian specifically is that you can't start filtering yourself before you even experiment and try. So I have said some things because stand-up comedy is so therapeutic. Add that to therapy, you're up there, just you, your ideas, your thoughts, and these people looking at you like, make us laugh, okay? So you're very vulnerable up there.
Crazy.
You're extremely vulnerable.
Okay.
There's no director, there's no producer, it's just you.
Just you.
And your ideas and your traumas, and then making them funny. So it's a big deal. So at the beginning, when I first started, it was quite adjacent to therapy for me, because you're unpacking truths that a lot of people can't really talk about, but you have to unpack it in ways that makes everyone feel like they're on board with you, and as if we're like solving it together, and then we're laughing at it. So yeah, I made mistakes. I made fun of situations. I didn't mention names, but I've made fun of situations that people were like, was that about me? And I do it again. But now I get consent first before I check with people. If it's a story they told me, I check with them. And I have a rule, right? If someone says something, like I have on my phone, this notes in the notes app. Maybe it's like, I don't know how many pages, 100 pages long. If you can, how many pages is the notes? Whatever. 100 pages long of ideas and funny things I heard from people. Right? So if someone says something that's funny or inspires me for a joke, I'm like, I'm going to talk about that story. Immediately I have to say, I'm going to write a joke about it. Are you okay with that? I literally ask for consent.
Okay. And then you feel free.
Yeah, exactly. And if they say no, it's a no. I delete
What
it from the
people
notes.
usually say?
Mostly yes. I don't think there's no one that's ever said no. Yeah. I mean, because I ask now. Some of them say, can I just hear it before you say it? And I'm happy to oblige. Having a muse has its responsibilities, yeah.
Anything about family?
Yeah, I talk about my family a lot. It's like my mom doesn't see my comedy, but the rest of my family does. So, but I never say really anything bad about the family. And if I want to say something about my family, I pretend it's a story I heard from someone else.
I have a question about the truth.
Okay.
So the comedy is rooted in truth.
Yeah.
A truth that we people often avoid. What's the hardest truth you've had to face about yourself?
Oh, well, because comedy is therapy, it really showed me something huge. It was like a slap in the face when I realized it. We're strong, independent women, but being strong and independent doesn't mean being isolated. Doesn't mean you have to do it all on your own. That was one of the biggest truths that shook me to the core, because you work for years on the premise that I am a strong, independent woman. I need no one. And you succeed because of that. And then you realize after 20 years that that's not true. We need people. The courage comes from admitting that we need love and community and people around us to help us become better and be successful. So that was a moment. Like, I cried for 2 days when I realized that.
I love this. I love
you.
I love this. Really.
Did you feel it? I felt like you felt it.
Yeah. Just admitting that we need people, that we need love in our life. Nothing is like, I can do everything by myself. Because it's very like me.
Yeah. We're giving each other goosebumps right now. I'm going to cry right now.
Yeah. So you've reinvented yourself in such a bold way. Still, I really admire your story. I really admire how you switched your life, how you changed your life. What's the fear that you've been carrying with yourself along this journey? Because it's not easy to like reinventing yourself. I know that we talked about, but what is the fear inside?
You really want to break me today, don't you? Okay.
Yeah. No, that's not my not my purpose. But
it's happening. You're breaking me. But it's good. It's in a good way. Okay. Being vulnerable is not scary anymore. Anymore. Okay. I think that was one of the big fears. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I would love to fix this moment. Being vulnerable is not scary anymore. I think it's a great like tagline.
True. I agree. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Well, that's basically the first layer of it. There's layers, right? There's your fear of being vulnerable. Okay, but why are you afraid of being vulnerable? Ultimately, when you sit down with yourself in that healing moment, doing your own shadow work and figuring out why you react to things the way you react, and you realize we're afraid of being vulnerable because we're afraid that when people see us for who we really are, they won't like us. They won't love us anymore. They'll see the flaws and they'll realize that we're not worthy of their companionship or friendship or affection or attention. And that's a very scary thing because it takes us back to we're absolutely alone. Yeah. So that's the fear ultimately. I
just see the picture of Noha, very successful in corporate world, and then just like, no, I want to be myself. And that's off.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. That's the biggest one. And I advise for everyone who wants quickly to get over the fear of being vulnerable to do stand-up comedy because it will immediately break that. Or sit in this chair and talk to you like that.
I think, honestly, only few people, few women can do that. One of them are you.
I will take the compliment, thank you, because that's another thing us women have a hard time doing. Okay. Taking a compliment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will look you in the eye and say thank you, and I appreciate that you saw that in me, and it means a lot. Thank you.
I see that, and I really admire this. I really admire your personality. The next question.
Yes.
Oh, I love this question.
Oh, no.
I love this
Bring
question.
it. I'm ready.
Women are often told to pick a lane, either family or career. As someone who chose her own unique path, how have you navigated society's expectations around you?
Yeah, I think from the beginning, or not from the beginning, but maybe in recent years, I realized those aren't the only two paths. I chose chaos. That's what I chose. And after choosing chaos, I picked joy. I just wanted to find joy. Life is short. It's actually short. The older you get, the more you realize that life is actually short.
Yeah.
And in 100 years, we're all going to be dead. Everyone we know is going to be dead. None of this is going to matter. So what's important? What do we search for? What do we collect now? I collect joy. I try to bring joy to people because that is one of the things that gives me fulfillment. And whatever it means and whatever it looks like, that's the path I'm going to take. So maybe in my 30s, it was career because I wanted to break free from society's cage of you have to get married and have kids. Maybe in my 20s, it was getting engaged a lot because that's the only way for me to escape from my family home and to have freedom. All of that was wrong. Right now I'm finally in my element, living my authentic life because I'm chasing joy. I'm chasing the voice in my stomach. I am giving an opportunity for the world and people to surprise me, not trying to be in control of everything. Society, how they perceive it or how they judge is no longer my problem.
Wow. This is wow. When you have a show, how do you know that you are succeeded? It was successful. What is the specific time or the moment when you really feel that joy?
I think it's when I realize I'm having fun on stage. When I'm having fun on stage, when I'm not going through my script of jokes and having conversations with the audience. And when I rush off stage wishing I had more time, that's my KPI of success on stage. Yeah, that's the main one. I mean, if you care about that, if you're on stage, not trying to show off or prove something,
okay,
and having fun, that's when everyone automatically will have fun. And then a secondary KPI is that people are laughing. Obviously. But if you cover the first layer, those first three things is that you're having fun, you're not trying to prove something, you're literally just there because you want to reward these people that came out on a night, sometimes weekdays, and came and wanted to sit there and be entertained by you. If you do that, if that's your priority, everyone's going to have fun.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, like, people coming up after and saying that was funny, that's hilarious, talking about the jokes, using some of the language or the jokes that you say on stage in their normal conversations, like you becoming part of their culture, I guess. But yeah, I think it's just having fun. If I'm having fun, everyone's having fun, then that is a successful show.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest thing that you've heard from someone after your show? Was there something?
Okay, you can edit this out if it's too haram. But listen, I think the weirdest thing, and I get this sometimes on my on my messages and Instagram DMs, is I have a very loud, carefree laugh. My laugh is quite significant. My friends with Apple Watches, if I'm sitting beside them laughing, you get that notification that says you might be around loud noises.
I'm not noticing anything like this.
We're very demure right now. We're very... But yeah, it's quite loud when I'm having fun. I don't filter myself. I'm just having fun. So I had someone come to me after a show and say, would you please kindly, respectfully, create an OnlyFans just for your laugh?
Really? No way.
Yeah. I'll show you the DMs I get. It's hilarious.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you react?
I said, pay me cash now. And I'll send you a link later. But it's like, at the first time I was very, what is happening? Why is this person weird? But then I just ignore it. I pretend they didn't say anything. Just like when a man comes up to me and say, oh, this is the first time a woman makes me laugh. I'm like, well, you're stupid. Yeah, that's another stupid thing I hear.
How did you get to that point? To that level, I would say, when you stop to care what people think about you?
I think it's the therapy, it's sitting with yourself, it's learning who you are, being comfortable to fail in front of an audience, not just in stand-up, but in life, because that's the foundation of invincibility. Failing, that's how you become invincible.
But this is really incredible. This is really amazing how you just, in, 2 years?
Yeah.
Established all of this?
Yeah. Well, I've been collecting information for years, right?
Okay.
But I haven't been applying it. I've been collecting information and it's just in there. I've been doing the healing work, but not applying it. And then all it takes is jumping into the unknown and walking into the fear. Because once you walk into the fear, it starts to crumble away.
One advice you can give to someone who is thinking of choosing their own purpose, their own passion, but still have lots of fears to go there.
I think the first thing is know that your fears are valid. Not everything is jump into the chaos, jump into the unknown. I think got lucky that I had the right opportunities for me to jump into the unknown. But for people first is to acknowledge and then make a plan, right? Make a plan. If jumping into the unknown means that you're going to quit your job, then say in a year, I'm going to save this much and that'll give me 2 years of just jumping into the unknown. And then I'll see a plan B. So number one is acknowledge that not everything is poetic and beautiful, right? That sometimes you need to plan.
Yeah.
Number two is just do it. Just go. Do the work, travel on your own, do the things that, anything that kind of gives you butterflies in a nice way, anything that ignites your soul on fire, anything that you do that you feel like you're playing, anything that takes you back into your child, like your inner child, click on that, double click on that, and then go experiment. And then if you get the chance, try to do more of it until you're ready to do it forever. I guess. I don't know. Or just send me a message and we'll figure it out together.
But most of people, they scared to leave everything behind because of the financial insecurity.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that part? Like, when you left everything, you don't have that stable income that coming to your life. Living in the UAE especially, it's not easy at all.
Nope, it's not.
And you just started.
I think a big part of it is that when I started with knowing myself and rebuilding myself, my priorities completely changed. I don't need a Gucci bag every month.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, I thought I did before.
Oh.
I did,
And you've been there.
I've been there.
Okay.
I've been there hardcore. I worked in tech. I had stocks. I worked, I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment on Central Park. I've been there. I've experienced it. So a big part of readjusting your expectations in life is figuring out who you really are without all these materialistic things. Figuring out what you exactly need. What am I going to give up? I'm giving up the fact that I can have this much income on a yearly or a monthly basis, and it needs to be significantly less because I actually figured out what gives me joy. If you don't give the time to yourself to figure out what gives you joy, you won't be able to make that switch. But when you do and you taste it, it'll be the easiest decision in the world.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
don't go through with the third engagement. Number 1 and 2, super fun. 3,
That was the hardest one.
that was the hardest one. That's an actual piece of advice that if I had a time machine, I would do. What else? What advice I would give? It's going to be okay.
It's gonna be okay.
And the things that you think matter do not. When we're young, we care so much about what people think, and we think every mistake there's a spotlight. No one cares. Everyone cares about themselves. If I knew that younger, I probably would have reached this stage much earlier. But if I did, that's not part of the journey, and we wouldn't be here talking about it. But yeah, that's kind of hypothetically.
How old is that younger self?
In this last question, in the third engagement, she was 27. But the one where I care too much about what people think and all of that, that's until like the 30s. I think maybe the early 30s. After that, I stopped caring about everything. And then in my 40s, that's when life actually started.
Oh, that's amazing. So you've gone from the corporate world to the comedy stage.
Yeah.
When you look in the mirror today, what do you see?
Oh my God, who's this cutie? She's so cute. Well, I mean, actually, that's a loaded response. It sounds comedic, but again, as women in our 20s, back in the day, right, we have this very negative body image. And I remember back in my 20s, I used to look like camera ready 24/7. I had a live TV show. I looked like what the magazine said we should look like. And I still looked in the mirror and I was like, ooh, that's a bit too much there. Ooh, if I could only change this. Now, I just love who I am when I look in the mirror because I worked on the inside.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy to, first of all, be alive. Excited about sometimes, when you hit the mid-40s, sometimes you wake up and there's a new wrinkle.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. It's like an adventure now. It's like, ooh, what's going to happen today? But yeah, I'm happy when I look in the mirror. When we're walking outside now, I'll catch a glimpse of myself and I'll flirt a little. So I'm proud of that because it didn't used to be that way.
I'm really proud of you. Oh.
Thank you.
Because I see a happy woman. Happy, beautiful, joyful, playful woman.
Thank you. That is exactly how I'd love to be described.
I think we still have some time, so let me get another questions. What's one thing the world doesn't know about Noha Bashir?
I am such a romantic.
Oh,
I believe in crazy, stupid love. Even though I've had really bad experiences, I still believe in crazy, stupid love.
You still believe in love?
Yeah.
If you could ask for one thing to change in the world, what would it be?
World peace, but also stop the inflation. All right, a few things. I'm very passionate about this. This is such a good question. One is, what's the word? Autocracy? Is that autocracy? It's basically, if you're an artist,
Okay.
you can just go do art and get paid for it.
Okay.
If you're a teacher and you all want to teach, you get paid for, like, you are rewarded in your life by the skill that you have, and you don't have to do the hustle, and you don't have to do something you don't want to do. Literally, the planet will thrive. Now, that is a fantasy, right? The thing that maybe can happen is that people can embrace the joy more, be playful, go on silly adventures, and not care what people think of them. and then I think generally people will be a little bit happier.
I think this is the nice moment to say thank you so much again to joining me today. I wish you continuous success, joy, and love in your life. And I hope to see you again soon, maybe in some few years or maybe 1 or 2 years, just to get to know what are the other news.
It was such a pleasure to get to know you, to chat to you. You really got me out of my shell.
I'm glad I did.
You really did. You got me really vulnerable. And I can't wait to see you in a comedy show. A comedy show soon too.
I will be there on the first row. No.
Second row. I like you. Second row.
Okay, I knew that. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.